Zoning board tricked me. The board is now in session. I would like to call roll call first off. Stroh,
Present.
Swarwitz,
Present.
Mr. DiMartino,
Present.
geez. Matthew, Kelly, Mr. Kelly,
Present.
Mr. I haven't seen you in a while. And Lorenzo. Sorry, it's been a long day, everybody. When the chairman is present so far. All right. Next item on the agenda is minutes to be approved. Do you have any minutes to be approved?
No, I don't think we.
Any minutes? Nothing? Okay. And next is, I guess, moving on to our first item on the agenda tonight would be.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
before we get to that, can I make a comment to the
Oh, sure.
board at least?
Sure. Yeah.
I'd like to ask that as board members, when we want to make a comment or ask a question, that we ask the chairman for permission to speak, and then he'll let us sort of go one at a time. This will allow the board members to clearly understand what each of us are saying. It'll allow the audience to understand what we're saying, and not insignificantly, it'll allow Ms. Raposa to put together minutes where we're not talking over each other. So that's the only comment I wanted to make. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, first item on the list is SouthCoast Wind. Please come up to the podium and swear to tell the truth and state your name for the record.
That's good evening, attorney Michael Minot here on behalf of SouthCoast Wind Energy LLC. So we're here tonight, not on a request for zoning relief, but on a request that this board issue an advisory opinion to the Energy Facility Siting Board, the EFSB, which is the permitting authority under the Energy Facility Siting Act for this SouthCoast Wind project, simply confirming that no zoning relief, i.e. a special use permit or variance, would be required under the Portsmouth Zoning Ordinance for the portion of the project which will be sited in Portsmouth. And that portion consists solely of approximately 2 miles of underground transmission lines. So there'll be no above ground substation or apparatus or development other than simply the drilling and the installation of those underground lines. And the project is described more particularly in a letter that was submitted, which is part of the agenda packet that was from SouthCoast Wind. In addition, there was a memorandum from Mr. Lindo that describes his position on this project, or the Portsmouth portion of this project, not being one that would require a special use permit or variance in this instance. And just to highlight a couple points that were also noted in that memorandum. So under the recent legislative amendments to 45-24-42 of the Zoning Enabling Act, which took effect on January 1st of 2023, there were a couple sections of that section of the Zoning Enabling Act, which are important here. So there now needs to be specific and objective criteria for each type of special use permit category. And also, if an ordinance does not expressly provide for specific and objective criteria for the issuance of a special use permit, it should be deemed a permitted use. And under the zoning ordinance, which was recently amended a couple of months ago, there is a section pertaining to public utilities. However, and this is under Article 7, Section C2F, the two sections of that public utility section are clearly distinguishable from this type of project. Again, because there's no power generation station, which will be associated with the Portsmouth component of the project, and there's no substation. So it's not like a traditional electrical utility where there'd be a substation and then and lines that would be installed, which would be connected to that. These transmission lines will be entering in the south side of Portsmouth from the Sakonnet River and then traveling mostly underneath state roads, some under town roads, exiting out near the Montauk or underneath the Montauk Golf Course. And I have Kelsey Perry here from SouthCoast Wind, who I can call up in a moment. She can give a brief overview of the project and where those lines would be installed and answer any questions that you might have. But again, we're just asking that the board confirm in its advisory opinion that there's no zoning relief required for this project. It's essentially just a temporary construction project that's not going to have any lasting impact in terms of an above ground facility or installation. And everything will be returned to its prior condition once that construction is complete.
Aaron, do you have the, okay. Great. I'll just state my name for the record. Kelsey Perry. I'm the External Affairs Manager for SouthCoast Wind. Our local office is 99 South Main Street in Fall River, Massachusetts, and I appreciate the board taking the time to consider our request. I just wanted to offer a really quick presentation to give you an overview of the whole project, just to fill in some of the gaps that you might be wondering after Mike's intro, and then orient us back to the activities in Portsmouth that we're here to discuss and consider. So we can move to the next slide. So our whole project, we are developing an offshore wind lease area in federal waters. It's about 60 miles south of Rhode Island, 30 miles south of Martha's Vineyard. We're planning to bring our offshore export cable underneath the seafloor, about 95 miles from the lease area under federal waters, Rhode Island state waters, and Massachusetts waters, to reach Brayton Point in Somerset, Massachusetts, which used to be New England's largest coal plant. It has existing infrastructure there that will allow us to connect to the regional electrical grid. We were recently awarded a contract through the states of Rhode Island and Massachusetts for a little over 1,200 megawatts that we're in the process of negotiating. So look forward to delivering that energy to New England. We can go ahead to the next slide, Aaron. So as I mentioned, that's the larger project. We are planning to bring about 2 miles of cable through Portsmouth, as mentioned. As Mike mentioned, this is a temporary construction project, and there should be no impacts during operation for the community. This route that you can see that follows Boyd's Lane and Anthony Road, Montauk Country Club in Portsmouth, was carefully analyzed to follow existing roads to avoid densely packed neighborhoods, and really to minimize impacts to the community and the environment. As Mike said again, there's no permanent structures in Portsmouth. These cables will be underneath the existing roadways, about 3 feet underneath, and it's really similar to a standard utility project. With that, again, happy to answer any questions. I do have my teammates here with me from technical and permitting who can help. And again, appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. At this point, I guess, any questions from the board?
Yeah, a couple of questions, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Mr. Burrell.
Ms. Perry.
Your mic.
Pardon me? Thank you. Ms. Perry, you've described this as a temporary construction effort. The placement of the cables, though, is not temporary, correct?
No.
You're just referring to like any construction project, you dig a hole and then you bury it.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And perhaps not germane to this, but the cable that runs up the Sakonnet River, that's not considered to be in Portsmouth?
No, it's not. I'm not sure exactly what the jurisdiction, how far it goes out in Rhode Island, but I think it's about maybe 2 miles offshore where the town jurisdiction ends.
Right. I was actually referring to the river, which is maybe a mile wide, but
Yep, wide, but not, we're going all 16 miles up the Secana River.
So I guess my question is, the cable that's in the Secana River is not considered to be in Portsmouth.
I don't believe so.
No,
Yeah.
no, Portsmouth has jurisdiction over essentially where the cable would be entering and exiting, and then all the way throughout in any land or underneath any land that's cited in Portsmouth.
Okay. Okay, so technically it might be like the high tide line or the low tide line where Portsmouth has jurisdiction.
Yes.
Okay, all right. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Great.
Sure, Ms. Wards.
So when sorry, thank you. When the roads are under construction, are they still going to be usable for the neighborhood?
And I'll bring my colleague up here. He's our engineer.
Sure, can,
Just state your
swear to
name.
tell the truth and state your name for the record, please.
Ken Black. Our local office is at 99 South Main Street, Fall River, Massachusetts. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Connecticut. Yes, the roads will be maintained with use. We will provide traffic maintenance and protection plans. We anticipate about one lane to be closed, so there might be some detours or one-way traffic with signals at either side.
Mr. Chairman, I have a
Else?
question as well. How deep is this over land? Is this gonna be easily crossed with say future sewer lines, water lines, gas lines? How deep are you placing this?
So 3 feet minimum is our standard, but there's existing utilities that we need to cross that we're already aware of that will likely go underneath, including culverts, water and sewer lines.
How about in the future? In the future, to cross these, what has to happen?
Yeah, we'll be providing as-built drawings of the installed duct bank, so the elevations will be known. So any future utility use will have a good reference point for
So
going
it's gonna
above
be
or below.
concrete encased, everything?
Yes,
Okay.
that's right.
Right, what else? Aaron, this is a little unique, the butters, interested parties, this is not a question. Okay. Members of the public, any members of the public have any comment? At this time? Online? With that said, I think you guys are good, so shall we make a motion to vote?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Sure.
I'd like to make a motion that the board renders an advisory opinion to the EFSB, finding that this proposal is deemed to be a permitted use because it is not prohibited under our zoning regulations. And therefore, if with regard to the question that the EFSB is asking, that being, do we require a special use permit for this project? The answer would be no.
You get a second?
No,
Or-
can I ask a question? Can we put a condition on it that the roads are still usable, that they're not closed to traffic
Excuse me,
or?
can I just interject? There's also, the EFSB also issued directive to Public Works to render advisory opinions as to those type of issues.
Okay,
Structure.
thank you.
And also, in addition to the special use permit, would be that no variances are required.
Would there be a more encompassing term?
Well, the question as posed by the board, the EFSB, was whether any special use permits or variances are
Okay,
required.
okay, then let me amend the motion to include that no variances or special use permits are required.
Can we get a second? The second, right? I'll make a motion to vote. Mr. Brielle,
Aye.
Mr. Donovan. Aye. Ms. Wards,
Aye.
Do the rest of our hands up.
and the chairman votes in favor of it as well. So I think you've been approved. Agreed, or this is a little unique, sorry. Thank you for coming in. Back to our normally scheduled program. We have a continuing petition. I'm looking upwards here. You guys would like to come on up to the podium. I don't know how they got in front of you. What happened? They cut you off this
That's all right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone.
evening.
We are here on a continuation of our variance request from the last meeting. Oh, I'm sorry. Jeffrey Castle, I'm an attorney for Looking Upwards. Providence, Rhode Island.
Thank you, Jeff.
Sorry about that. Just launch in. So as I said, we're here on a continuance from the last hearing. As the board will recall, you granted provisional request for, there's a signage variance request. You had granted a provisional request for 2 signs, and we were discussing signage on the building itself. This is 1174 East Main Road. And they were 2 signs on the eastward facing side of the building that were about 125 square foot for each of them. And then a signage on the back of the building that was approximately 50 square feet or so. And board had concerns over the size. We have gone back and we have reconfigured, and now we are requesting, well, we have 2 signs, one on the westward facing side. This is the back of the building where the boats are. There's a lot of stuff, but all that we're requesting is a sign about 5 square feet that would just have the number of the building 1184 on it, so that when people come around the corner off of Beaupre, they will see the sign and know that that's the building. The second change is, instead of having the 2 large signs on the front of the building eastward facing East Main, that we would have a freestanding sign that would be approximately 52 square feet, be about 7 by 7.8 square feet, that would have the names of both of the entities there, and it would sit about 20 feet or so back from the road, and it would be visible coming whether north or south on the road. It's simple as that.
So on the site plan that you included on the site plan,
Mhm.
is it where the green dot is? Is that the freestanding? Is that one? Oh, the blue. Okay.
To sum it up again, there's no
Yes. Aqua,
signs on the building.
correct.
You've got the proposed one in the,
No signs, excuse me, no signs on the front facing
On the front?
East Main Street.
on the front, correct?
It'd be just the number of the building on the back.
And just, correct, just a number on the back. And then I didn't see, unless I missed it, I didn't see, is there anything at the entrance? Was there a sign on the north side of the building above the entrance, or no?
There are provisional signs that you provisionally approved at the top of Beaupre Street as you're making that turn.
Correct, but I mixed them up from last time, but above the entrance of the building, there's,
They've eliminated the big.
no, not that one. I thought there was some above the entrance, and I apologize. There's been a few.
May I ask a question, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
On the north side of the building, facing your parking lot,
Yes.
currently there are 2 large signs.
That
I drove by there today. There are 2,
if you say there are,
they
then,
look 20 feet long, 15 feet long. 2 great big signs.
okay.
Are those included in this application?
No.
Why not?
I'm Carrie Miranda. My
Excuse me,
address,
ma'am, what is your name?
I'm Carrie Miranda. I'm the executive director of Looking Upwards. My address is 141 Cherokee Drive, Portsmouth. I'm going to ask Denise, who's the researcher on this project.
Hi, I'm Denise Lussier. I'm the Director of Communications for Looking Upwards, and 1184 East Main Road is our office address. We already have permits for those. They weren't considered special use. So that's why they're not. There were 4 signs that we were told were special use. The 2 that were on our neighbor's property, and then the 2, well, the one on the west side and one on the east side that needed dimensional variance. So.
Can I continue? May I ask the town planner, the signs on the north end of the building do not require our approval?
I'm trying to see where the signs would be. Hold on, I'm gonna pull something up. real
On the
quick.
north side of the building.
Yeah.
You can't see it from the street.
They're
From their
the
property.
actual entrance of
Correct.
Lily Frog and Looking Upwards, yes.
Because I kind of looked at this as what is on the site now? And on the site now, at your north exit, the road that exit onto East Main Road, there's a sign with your logos on it that says something like, go to the next.
Oh,
Turn.
you're okay. You're talking about
Well, no,
something
no,
else.
No,
okay.
No, I'll get to that.
I think we're just trying to accumulative count on the
Cumulative.
signs.
Yes, yeah, I wish we had a picture of what's there now, because
I can just walk you through it.
so there's that sign that looks to me to be maybe 10 square feet.
I don't actually know what the measurement is on that. Maybe Aaron has that. That's the stonework sign.
Well,
This is part of the
The
permit.
stonework sign right there.
Yeah, that.
Freestanding sign.
But it
You're
now
talking about the
says-
freestanding sign, or you're talking about the sign on the building?
I'm talking about
Oh.
signs that are there now.
So that sign that you see on there is, we refer to it as the monument or stonework. That has Lily Frog and Looking Upwards. We have a permit for that already. And then, as you can see, the building, the north face of the building, we have permits in place for a sign over the entry of Lily Frog and over the entry of Looking Upwards. And then, when we came to the town planning department, we were instructed that because some signs were going to be on our neighbor's property to help us help people come up around that U-shaped road that starts at Beaupre, that those 2 signs would come before this committee. And then there were, in addition to that, the confusion of when you're on the west side of the building, knowing, because there's so many buildings there's 3 buildings you're looking at. So we needed something to tell people, oh yeah, there's where I'm headed. And then something for East Main Road, so that people would know where we're located. So that was the landscape of all of this.
So if I could ask the town planner, I'm looking at Article 9. Let me see what I'm looking at. Article 9, Section A. Signs permitted in commercial, industrial, and waterfront districts. Which is section or 5A2. 1 wall-mounted sign. The maximum area of the wall-mounted sign shall be equal to less than the square footage of 2 linear feet. You know, it talks about frontage. Is that what covers the big signs that are on the side of the building now?
On the side, yeah, on the side of the building. Those are wall-mounted signs.
That face the north side, face the north, right?
Facing north.
So we've used their wall mount sign is on the north.
Right.
And the square footage of those signs is
What?
falls underneath the ordinance, or what is the square footage of those signs?
I have no idea, Mr. Chairman.
Are they, but to make a decision, I think on the holistic package here, it would be nice to know what what you have, what the square footage is versus, I mean,
I understand that completely, but as you'll recall, that question didn't come up at the last
why-
meeting on it.
It wasn't.
No, I'm not saying it was you. I'm
There's
just saying,
something I would think that should be included in the package, it's the entire amount of signage, right? Because we're giving you a variance based
but
on
as
the
Ms.
need.
As Ms. Lussier indicated, we already have permits for those signs. That's why they didn't come up at the last one. I'm not sure whether they're included or not.
Understood, I guess.
So the permitted signs in the front are permitted signs for wall mounted signs. The excess was the ones on the east side, or the west side.
But that assumes that the wall mounted signs to the north meet the
Correct.
ordinance.
So
25 feet
who-
each.
Is that on your department, who? checked that?
Building approves those signs.
So they,
Get a sign permit from the building department. So those are approved signs. The excess wall mounted signage that they were asking for exceeded. So that's what they're asking
Right.
for permission.
Right, so the last time that we discussed this last month, the signage on the east of the building, we were applying these regulations about frontage and things like that.
Mhm.
Even though those signs have already been built.
They were asked, that's why they were asking for extra dimensional variance for extra signage.
Well, no, I thought they were asking for dimensional variance to be bigger than this requirement allowed.
It was also for extra signage.
Okay, so I am at this point. The way I'm considering this is are we permitting too many signs on related to these two businesses? And it seems to me that's difficult to do without knowing all the signage that's in place.
Fair point.
And you can't tell me what is the square footage of the signs that you have on the building now, which makes it difficult to assess how much signage we're adding.
So, I don't know, Aaron, if you can pull up our permit.
Yeah.
We don't actually have signs on the building right now. They're permitted, but they're in production. So, but Aaron, when we did the application, that information would have been in the application.
Ma'am, I drove by the building today and there are two big signs
Yeah.
right in front.
Yeah, what you saw were our temporary banners that were out front. The signs that we will have there will be up on the building. There will be. But so where the entrance to looking upwards is, do you remember seeing that awning?
Yes.
That awning. So next to it, there's kind of a chimney facing sort of construction. So there will just be a sign up there that basically says looking upwards. And then over the other part of the building, there's that overhang that is for the childcare, the Lily Frog. And there will be a sign across the front of that overhang that says Lily Frog. So those are the signs. I don't know the dimension. That was the contractor that was required to submit that. So Aaron probably has that information. But what you saw were when the building opened, people needed to know where to go.
yeah.
And the town was kind enough to allow us to put up those banners, so.
Okay,
So I don't. Sorry, so I think it's safe to assume that they obviously fit within the ordinance, right? So we're just trying to understand how many the total that you have is, because I guess my thought, and Ben brought it up, but how many are there total, right? And it was just trying to get an all-encompassing idea of the final product, because the ones that were allowed weren't included, so, you know,
When,
is it 2, is it 3, is there gonna be more that, you know, and it's not a matter of, it's just trying to be thorough, not a matter of giving you a difficult time, you know?
we understand, and then I just want to add, if you see this sign here on the stonework, the monument, we would not even want that sign. Now, oh, we would not even want that sign and considered not having it. But it is important because it does say right turn at light. And it gives people, that kind of directional thing. And so, that's what we're struggling with an unusual property is what it
Could we
is.
eliminate the monument sign with the addition of your freestanding sign?
No, unfortunately, because our freestanding sign is, our freestanding sign, it needs to be on our property and it wouldn't give people enough notice for the light. And because the freestanding sign is 20 feet back in order to be on our property. And then it's at an elevation of 6 feet because of the stone wall there. So what will really show, we have a packet that has like images of that at
Yeah,
200
I
feet.
was-
You have that? Okay. So when you see that at 200 feet, what you're going to see is, oh, that color, oh, that name. And people need notice to be able to turn at the light. So this is closer to the road, gives people a chance to actually see, right turn at light. So we're juggling safety issues as well as, directing traffic safety issues, as well as just trying to let people know, okay, here's the property. So, and we really tried to bring it all down. We took your input really seriously.
And,
So,
and the monument sign and the signs that are going to be on the north side of your building, they're already allowed. Is that true, Aaron?
Correct.
Okay, all right. So they're sort of off the table. My next question related to the freestanding sign. That when I did the math, I came out with about 58 square feet of signage, not counting the half circle on top. And the entire, by right, or by ordinance, I believe you're allowed 40 square feet for the entire sign. So I'm just wondering, what's the square footage of that entire sign?
The square footage that I have is it's 7 feet by 7.833 feet tall, 7 feet wide by 7.833 feet tall, which should be 54.83 square feet. And then you subtract the 3 feet at the top for the sun, is my understanding, which you would come up with 51.83, or rounding it up to 52 square feet.
and I would add a little to that, which is exactly what you said, which is the height includes the sun in the way that was measured. And then because the sun doesn't fill the whole space, there were 3 feet taken out of the measurement to allow for that.
Deducting for the circumference.
Okay, so that,
But whether it's 52 square feet or 54.83, it's still over the 40. So there is a 12 to 14 square foot request for the variance.
Okay.
For that sign.
yeah, and then turning on to, I can never remember how to pronounce the name of that.
Beaupre?
Beaupre.
Beaupre is the
Beaupre.
entrance.
Beaupre. There's
I think that's how you pronounce it.
okay, good enough. There's a 20 square foot sign at the end of Beaupre.
Correct.
And then there is a 9 square foot sign a little bit further in.
Correct.
And then there's the 5 1/4.
Those were the two provisional approvals from last time.
Yes. Yeah.
And then there'll be a small 5-foot square sign on the west side of the building that'll just have the number of the building, 1184.
Correct. And that's approximately 5 1/4 as I.
Correct. So the total, if you add the small sign, the accessory sign, and on the west side and the sign on the east side, you come up with just under 60 square feet of signage for the two. I think it's, yeah, just under 60 square feet.
Yeah, so my major concern is that our ordinances are designed to reduce visual pollution in the town and trying to keep the town looking a combination of suburban and rural. And so there's been a continual effort as businesses come in that signs that are visible from the road meet the zoning ordinances unless there's some overriding reason not to. And understandably, businesses would like to have bigger signs. But I don't see an overriding, I don't see a reason to degrade the standard of, or degrade the quality of life in Portsmouth by having a larger sign than the ordinance would allow. And I'm not sure if you can address that.
Well, I think that the easiest way to address that from my perspective is I don't think the sign is unattractive. It's really not a residential area. It's a business area. That East Main Street area has significant numbers of businesses on it. There may also be residential, but that particular area that we're talking about, where this particular sign is going to go, is clearly a commercial area, not a residential
Correct.
area.
Correct. And as we scoot down.
I understand, excuse me, I understand your desire to maintain your ordinances and to maintain a certain level of signage so that it doesn't get out of hand. And we certainly, as Denise indicated, as we talked the last time, you had significant concerns over the size of the first signs that we had proposed that were going on the building. And we took that into consideration. It was certainly a relevant point of view. And we've significantly reduced the signage, both in terms of the number of signs as well as the size of the signs, in order to try and comply with what all of you were thinking about as we could best ascertain it. I don't think that it is sign pollution. I don't think that it's overly large. I think that it's appropriate for the size of the commercial space that we're talking about and for where the building is on a very busy road. And I would hope that the board members would see it that way and grant the variance.
Yeah, so I would say that that this isn't really a negotiation of they had 100 square feet and they're down to 60. This is more like they're allowed 40. 40 is the objective value that the town wants, that the people in the town through our elected officials support. And the real question is, why should it be greater than 40? Given that most businesses on East Main Road are meeting that same, this same set of ordinances. I don't think I've had, in the time that I've been on the board, I don't think we've seen a business asking for a bigger sign than was allowed by the ordinance. So rather than saying, well, we had 100 feet, now we're down to 60, we should be saying, why do you want anything other than 40? And some of the concerns, identifying the business from the road, that doesn't work for me, because if you're on East Main Road heading south, you will see the monument telling you where to turn. But if you're going north on East Main Road, well, you're going to get to that cross street before there's no signage there. And people are going to get there by GPS. They're going to get there by driving past it once and coming back. The same way we get to, there's a daycare a little bit north on East Main Road that has a similar situation where it's embedded off the road and it doesn't have extra signage. People are finding it. So
do you, if that main one, the one in the front that we're talking about on East Main Road, which, just to give you guys an idea, is bigger than that doorway. Okay, that double doorway, it's higher approximately and wider than that doorway. So it's a big sign.
Yeah.
And what concerns me is the precedent it sets for all the other businesses on there. So my question to you is your objection to the size of that particular sign or to the overall and the aggregate of all of the signs?
My objection is to that sign.
The size of that sign.
And the reason for that is the two signs on the north end of the building and the monument side, well, they're already covered. So, you know, I'm taking them off the table. The sign on Beaupre and the sign off of both Beaupre and the sign on the back of the building, well, we've already approved that. That's, you know, the horses.
Yeah.
And those signs aren't on East Main Road. But East Main Road is where there's a number of businesses that comply with these regulations. And I see no reason to go 41 square feet, much less 60 square feet. No, that's my piece.
I just want to make sure we're not veering off and having a discussion when we're,
So the ask, I mean,
Is that
they're,
like,
they're allowed, so a property is allowed. The freestanding sign, the monument sign, this extra sign that they're proposing is another freestanding sign.
my question was, I don't want us to get here, you know, have a conversation up here about our personal opinions, and is that okay? Or I didn't want, if it's a Q&A, and
I think
I
it's,
don't want to, you know,
You're having
too
a
much of somebody's opinion for another board member.
you're having a discussion.
That's
about-
okay. That's,
About the sign.
I just,
Yeah.
want to make sure, you know.
And, but something else I want to make sure I understand. What is is there an allowable square footage for that freestanding sign?
So the regulation is one freestanding sign per lot.
And so to sum it up like this, I guess, you're allowed one freestanding line per lot, one wall mount sign, right?
Per establishment, yeah.
So here, I guess if we're looking at it and just gonna basically. We've got, they've got that, and now we're asking for an additional. Freestanding sign, along with. Three other signs,
So the one,
another wall mount.
the wall
and then
mounted
two more
sign, the
freestanding.
wall mounted sign that they're now proposing is more of like an incidental accessory sign, just depicting their address.
Which is fine. I'm just saying the total number of signage, and then we've already got the monument, which is their piece, that's their freestanding sign, and they've got their one, they already have two. So I assume the two is the division of the allowable square footage that's allowed by right, because we didn't see that, and it's not part of the packet, right? So we're gonna assume that that's correct. In addition to that, so we've got, they've hit their numbers there. And they've got another wall mount and 3 freestanding, correct?
So the special use permit was for the offsite directional. And then the freestanding is more, the freestanding on their property is more directional.
Now,
I don't know if I buy that, I just. But however we want to sell it.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Farrell.
Aaron, when you're describing the freestanding directional sign, is that the sign that's on East Main Road?
No, that's the sign behind.
Okay.
Oh, that, I
That's the
thought you were
sign.
talking about the one they want out in the
No,
front.
the one they want on the front that'd be an extra freestanding sign.
Okay, so the sign in the front, that there is nothing in the ordinance that gives them any right to have that sign.
No, that's
one
why we're here.
proposed. There's one monument sign. The one monument sign they have, that's a freestanding sign. And then they're asking for another one. The one that they're proposing. So that's in addition to the monument sign that they're allowed. They're asking for another one. Does that make sense?
Yes, and so the monument sign, you could say that checks the box on the freestanding sign.
That's correct.
And then the other sign, all of it is unallowed. They can't have any other sign there without us.
That's why they're here.
Okay, I thought it was a question of size, like
There's
they're
also-
allowed.
There's also a size component too,
Okay, so how big can that sign be?
for multiple establishments, 32 square feet in total. For a freestanding sign, but they're asking for an extra sign that's in excess of 32 square feet.
I guess I'm struggling here that the second freestanding sign
Yes.
Can be a max of 32 square feet.
that's what.
We can put that as a condition of this, because it's an extra sign. So it is, that's what they requesting permission for that extra sign. So we can put a condition on it that we're not going to approve it at 50 square feet. We're going to approve the 32 or 49 or whatever we agree to. If we are all in agreement that they can have that second freestanding.
Or we could say that businesses on East Main Road are allowed one freestanding sign. And they get to make a decision. Do they want the monument sign?
Yes.
Or do they want this other freestanding?
Yes.
But businesses get one sign and I don't see an overriding reason to give one business two signs when everybody else gets by with one.
Except for where the building is, where it's located, how it's structured. This is not a building. If you go down East Main Road and you see storefronts need one sign. I understand that. That makes perfect sense. This is not a storefront. This is actually on the side. The entrance, as you saw today when you went in, is on the side of the building. So there's, from our perspective, both from a safety perspective and from a notice perspective, a need for a second sign. I don't think that it is unattractive. I don't think that it degrades the neighborhood in terms of having that second sign.
We certainly have a difference of opinion, but I would also go back to the ordinance where the ordinance representing the will of the people of the town of Portsmouth don't want these extra signs. And
Sir, with all due respect, I don't know when the ordinance was put into place. I don't know whether it was put into place last year or whether it was put into place 50 years ago when East Main Street or East Main Road was very different. But the ordinance also contains a provision for variance, which means that the people, in addition to having language in the ordinance that says we only want this many signs or we only want signs to be this big, also said that they would allow for a variance. So they have flexibility in terms of what they're doing. They're not restrained simply by what the ordinance says. They have flexibility to allow for differences.
You're absolutely correct. And so when I look at that flexibility, I say, well, why does this business or this application require the variance? Well, finding the building, that doesn't wash for me because if
What else is the purpose of a sign except to identify where the business is? That's the whole purpose of a sign. We didn't.
Sir, let me speak.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
That if you're heading north on East Main Road, you have to turn before you're going to see that sign.
Not necessarily, but okay. That's your opinion.
And if you're heading south on East Main Road, you'll see the monument sign. That's the one that tells you to turn. And we don't have any expert testimony here. When we're faced with expert testimony or when we're presented with expert testimony, then as the board members are supposed to give that a lot of weight, more weight than my personal experience or my personal opinions. In this case, there's no expert testimony, so everybody's opinion is sort of the same. And I just don't see why one business deserves more signage than another business.
And I don't see why our business should be penalized for asking for something that's available to be asked for and other businesses haven't, which is in essence what you've just said. Just because everybody else didn't ask for it, we shouldn't be allowed to have it. But in fact, the ordinance specifically allows for us to ask for it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, let me finish, it doesn't require that you grant it. I understand that. But it does allow for us to ask for the variance. And again, for you to say that we shouldn't be allowed the variance because nobody else has one, and I'm not sure that that's true, but I'll take your word for it. But more importantly, that nobody's ever asked for it is, I think, somewhat restrictive in terms of the way you're reading the ordinance. And we're being penalized.
I would say you're mischaracterizing my objection.
Can I jump in with a comment?
I'm looking for the reason why why more signage is necessary.
So can I jump in again? I've already signed on, right?
Sure.
Thanks. Okay, so as the executive director of the agency who's requesting this, so a couple things. As a nonprofit, we operate on a tight budget. I want to speak about that monument sign. It is angled to face north. So the sign only addresses anybody coming north. We have gone back, I think we've talked about the sign at our organization, probably more than the budget pays for our salaries. Quite frankly, we've been living and breathing the signage. It's a very difficult thing. Expert witnesses would cost us a lot of money that we don't have to spend on this particular project, but we're trying to figure this out. What I can say is we came back with a solution that we thought would save us some money and time and would be agreeable to this board, which was the two-sided sign. That would, yes, I agree. It's not perfect. We thought plan B down the road was we need to go to DOT and talk to them about a sign similar to what I think it's the Vineyard that has a sign on the roadway that's in front of the two properties that points to go in the direction down the road. So I know that, but that's a long process. It's a plan B. It's not going to happen anytime soon, and it's not this board that would approve that. So we could look at that for across from Beaupre down the road, but we can't solve that problem now. We understand that. The monument sign's not going to solve our problem. That two-sided sign would, and we could potentially eliminate the monument sign, but that's going to cost us some money. So we can either take the signs off that, but what it doesn't do is say, it doesn't allow us to take down the turn at light. We remove that indicator, causing some more traffic confusion for our turning into our property. The second thing I want to say is the signs that indicate where to go in the building are important for our families, for the preschool, and for the people that come to looking upwards as far as which part of the building to go to. When we didn't have the temporary signs up, people were going into the wrong places, and that was problematic for us. So those are why we need the signage updated.
Thank you.
I hope
think
that's
Mr.
helpful.
Turner has a question.
Just to state also, I think the monument sign is more of a directional or safety situation rather than advertising for the business. It does have their logo, but if you have people turning into that location, you're potentially setting up a crash between two vehicles, or even something worse with the pedestrian being there, or something of that nature. So I think having a freestanding sign where you can see from both sides is a good idea, but it probably should be limited to the size that's allowed already, at 32 square feet. And the other one just be considered a directional sign. Otherwise, you take that down, you're gonna have a white sign or a yellow sign, metal on a stake, which is not gonna be, it itself is gonna be visual pollution. That's my opinion.
I guess to kind of sum up what you're asking is the directional needed, and if you maybe can fill us in on the type, like who's coming there? Is it a daily basis? Is it, so everybody's coming there every day, or is it a one-time visit? It's like,
So
what is their case?
So we have a capacity for 78 children for our daycare. We have up to upwards of 50 to 75 staff and clientele coming to looking upwards on the other part of the business on a daily basis as well. So the drop off and pickup in the mornings and the evenings is pretty busy. I go in and out of that parking lot and I am passing cars on the back of the building frequently. It is a one-way out on the business side of our building, and we use the Beaupre entrance, and we encourage a no left turn on leaving Beaupre, because we all understand the danger of East Main Road when you're not using a light. We're grateful for that light of Beaupre, and that and we also have folks that use the bus stop at Beaupre as well, which is pretty important to us.
So safety directing the traffic. Signage to alert them.
Yeah.
They are coming on a daily basis. So
Oh,
we would hope once they. see
Monday
the
through
sign location-
It's Monday through Friday. Yeah, it's heavily used. Our parking lots, both of our parking lots are full or fairly full. I imagine you came, sir, during the daytime today and saw the heavy use in our parking lot.
yes,
Yeah, we're a very actively used organization.
Safety and more than safety.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I can
All right,
opine some more.
all right, so sure. As long as I think we should wrap it up soon. I don't want to go back and forth for too long. So they're coming every day. So
Yeah, I have no, I concur with Dr. Donovan's opinion that the signage on the west side, I'm sorry, the signage on the north side of the building and the monument sign, they're done deals. They've already been approved. I'd have to agree, there's a do not enter, like the red stop sign looking thing, but can't be too careful. Don't want anybody turning in there. My main concern is the size of this freestanding sign, which I would also like to see, make it 32 square feet.
I would like to not come back if possible. I as a Portsmouth resident, appreciate the work that you all do and that you volunteered to do. And I would like for us to come to, not have a third round if possible. I think that we can, certainly agree to make that sign the size it needs to be. We appreciate your support.
So do you want to make a?
Well, we gotta-
opinion. We need to ask for public.
okay.
I'm sorry.
I think is everybody good up here?
Yeah.
We're good?
Yeah.
Yes. Any butters, interested parties? Anything else to add? Sorry, I believe.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate you.
I think thank you.
Good.
We're good. So I think we'll make a motion to vote. Before that,
Before you,
make a condition?
before you do that, I just want to make it clear what you're approving.
Right, conditional.
Yes, sir. So
So you're basically approving if as is. So the extra freestanding sign. And then the height of it, you can put conditions, whatever you want to do. And then there's that back component, that the instructional accessory sign that just says their address, 1184. That's about 5 and 5.62 square feet, where 2 square feet is allowed. So that's, that's what you're
Mhm.
approving as well. Just an increase in that. Those are the two things.
okay, so in crafting the motion, the freestanding sign on East Main Road, what's the maximum square footage allowed? Seconds.
For a second, you're
No, assuming that was a one.
30
just
32 square feet.
Okay, so as a preview, my motion is going to be that for that freestanding sign to meet the signage regulations of 32 square feet, as well as whatever height restrictions are also in the ordinance.
Yeah, not to exceed 15 feet.
Yeah, and then, if I want to be real complete, the sign on Beaupre, that's 20 square feet is allowed.
Well, those are the ones in Beaupre, the offsite directional signs were discussed last
And we're.
meeting.
Okay.
Those are preliminary.
Okay, so that 20 square foot sign is already approved. The 9 square foot sign is also approved. The sign on the west side of the building that was 40 something is
That's
now,
reduced to that address sign. That's 5.62 feet square. feet.
right. So I assume that that's approved also because they're coming in smaller than what we approved.
No, we never.
But that's a new, that's a whole new
Oh,
business,
okay.
instructional accessory, which
Okay.
is 2 square feet.
Okay, so in that case, we need a variance of 3.6 feet.
What is that? It's 5.62 feet. Fractions. 5.62 square feet. The regulation is 2 square feet. So you can approve that.
So that means the variance is 3.6.
Right.
3.6 square feet.
Which one? Which 3.3?
3.3?
Yeah.
Okay, 3.3. Mr. Chairman, may I make a motion?
Yes.
So, Mr. Chairman, I move that a variance, would it be a variance or a special use permit for the freestanding sign?
Be a dimensional variance.
Okay, that we have a dimensional variance allowing a second freestanding sign on the west, on the east side of the building, positioned perpendicular to East Main Road of no larger than 32 square feet and 15 feet high. And that a sign on the west end of the building showing the address number be allowed with a variance of 3.3 square feet. Yes. That's 3 point.
He said 3.26, it was 5.26,
Oh.
run around it up to 3.3.
Okay, okay, 3.3. Is that good? Okay.
Chairman would also like to make a condition, that if this were to be approved tonight, that if any other additional signage be proposed or placed on neighboring or the property, that they would have to come back and revisit the freestanding sign, on East Main Road. So that would be if there was another one at your entrance, maybe we revisit the discussion then. And obviously the removal of the temporary banners from the fence, right? That's part of it. So that's my condition. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all right, moving along. You ready to vote?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Would like to lead off, Mr. Farrell. You've had a lot to say tonight.
Oh,
Would like
thank
to
you.
Start,
I vote to approve this motion for the reasons I've stated.
Mr. Donovan,
I vote to approve the motion for the reasons that stated of Mr. Curiel.
Ms. Horwitz,
I vote to approve for reasons previously stated.
Mr.
I
Lorenzo.
also vote to approve for reasons previously stated.
The chair also votes to approve for reasons stated. We appreciate the Q&A, and our sign ordinance is not the most clear, so we thank you for answering our questions and coming back. So you are approved. Okay, took a little longer than we thought, but next item on the agenda, Lori Mandalay, applicant for property located at 244 Point Road. Tax assessor map 15 lot 6. The applicant seeks dimensional variance to renovate an existing dwelling.
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, David Martland with offices at 1100 Aquidneck Avenue, Middletown. I'm here representing the owner and applicant, Lori Mandley, this evening. The property is located at 244 Point Road. It's there's an existing single family dwelling on the property. Ms. Manley is looking to renovate this property. As it's been around a bit and it's a bit tired and is in need of some renovation. The property has a number of different constraints. So the existing building actually already incurs into the side yard setback. So the existing footprint is located 1.9 feet from one side yard. It incurs into the front yard and is slightly over on lot coverage, currently at 23.4%. In addition, the configuration of this lot is fairly strange. It doesn't have a lot of depth to it, and it backs up to the coastal waters. So you actually can't really expand in to the rear because of CRMC setbacks and things of that nature. What the applicant is essentially proposing is to go up in certain places on the existing footprint with a full renovation of the home. There is a slight increase in the incursion into the front yard setback in a portion of the proposed building. So it would have, so we're seeking a 12.5 foot variance related to that, as well as to keep the existing side yard setback at 1.9 feet. So there's an 8.1 foot variance being requested there. So it's using that essentially the same foundation to go up on. I do have Dan Herkenrother here this evening who designed plans. I've got also Geraldine Small, professional engineer, who is available on Zoom to answer any questions the board might have, but I thought it was a fairly straightforward application. The variance is being requested, or really as a unique, as a result of the unique characteristics of this property, the narrowness of the lot and the existing footprint as it stands.
Questions from the board? Sue, it's yours.
Why aren't there floor plans? That's one of mine. Why are we just seeing elevations and not floor plans so we can see how, because the copy of this, the survey is not, it's really hard to read. And I'm not sure why there isn't floor plans included.
Well, the floor plans weren't included. It's not a checklist item. It wasn't a required submission, so those weren't in the packet. The required items are the site survey and the elevations related to that. It's a 3-bedroom structure. Obviously, it's not going up on the entirety of the structure, as you can tell by the elevations. It's only a portion of that second floor. The ridge height is only at is below 20 feet, which is well below the.
But it's also based on average grade, so it's not truly 20 feet because you take the low point and the high point, so it's not really.
But it
falls under the.
It is under the 35 feet, yeah, but it's not just.
Yeah, it goes nowhere near 35 feet. Yeah,
No, I'm not saying it does.
I think you're just looking for a floor plan just to see where the
Normally applications include floor plans and elevations and because you're also mentioning a pool and I don't see where the pool is.
Well, we're not proposing.
But it's part of lot coverage.
I would assume they would have to come back for the pool for lot coverage.
It's on their
Right.
application.
I think the pool might be on the site plan.
Could I,
Little narrow.
could I approach? Would that be okay? where there's an existing concrete deck on the rear of the structure,
Oh, it's under there. Okay, now I see it. Okay, thank you.
they're proposing to put
Okay.
it within that existing concrete
Footprint.
deck. It's a
Okay,
very small lap pool.
okay, I didn't see it on the PDF. Thank you.
That's those,
No, that,
well, the print is. A couple, sure, Mr. Farrell.
It appears from the application, even though there's a lot of renovation going on. The square footage increase or the lot coverage increase is going from, I think it was 20 point or 20,
23.4 to 24%. So
right, so 0.5% bigger than it was.
that's correct.
And my impression is, so you're putting in a pool, you're putting in a deck, you're putting on a second story. The lot is odd shaped. I assume you have the septic system over on the north side, so there's not a lot of room to move. So even with all that renovation, this house isn't dramatically increasing in footprint.
No, not at all. Yeah,
And with regard to the setback incursion on the front of the house, it seems to me that it's being measured correctly from the edge of the steps as opposed from the edge of the house. Is that?
yes,
Will you zoom in on that a little bit by chance?
that is correct.
So it's not like the house is moving forward 5 feet.
No,
Decorative steps are moving forward.
right, that the front entry steps. That is
And then,
correct.
as with a lot of houses in that area, the distance to the property line is important. But from a practical perspective, the distance to the road is also,
It's like an average.
yeah,
like averaged out.
yeah. If we look at that, there appears to be quite a bit of room between the front of the home and the street. The home today has sort of a horseshoe driveway that you guys are pulling out and replacing.
That's correct.
So you might even be getting rid of a curb cut.
Right.
I guess I was impressed that you guys did all that stuff and
It's
aren't
pretty,
blowing up the house.
pretty mindful of 0.5% increase for the work that's going on there on that confined lot. Very familiar with that street, so it gets a unique lot with the constraints of the wetlands, a lot in the setbacks.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask
Big change.
can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Are the roof overhangs, I don't think they should be, but by our ordinance, are they included in lot
They changed
coverage?
18 inches.
yes.
Yeah, we included those in the calculations. Yes.
Okay. So,
Any other questions? Mr. Kelly? Sure. You get up here? Yeah. Butters or interested parties? Mine? Not too many butters over there. I don't think. That said, I'll make a motion to vote if you're good.
Yes,
Mr. Martin,
I'm all set. Thank you.
motion to vote?
Sorry.
Right. Mr. Farrell, keep it consistent at first.
Mr. Chairman, I vote to approve this application. The renovation is restricted by characteristics of the lot, not by anything that the applicant has done to limit their growth. The improvements on the home will be, will help the neighborhood, bringing what it was a, mid-century kind of home, probably seasonal, up to a standard that can be used full-time. And I believe they've done a lot of work to renovate this home while maintaining nearly its previous footprint, which also is to a benefit to the neighborhood.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan.
I would vote also to approve for the reasons stated by Mr. Furell.
Good. Schwartz,
I vote to approve for reasons previously stated.
I too,
Mr. Lorenzo.
I too vote to approve for reasons previously stated.
Chairman also votes to reasons stated by Mr. Cruel. I think it's a great redesign with minimal impact and on the area. Architect did a great job with the existing footprint. So you are approved. Thank you.
I'll make certain to submit floor plans in the future on any other applications.
Okay,
Just so you know.
It helps. It helps to see how it.
thank you. You guys have a nice night. Okay. Next on the list, Mark and Donna Ventura. Property located at 166 Thayer Drive, tax assessors map 37 lot 99. The applicant seeks dimensional variance to construct an addition to an existing garage. Or proposed addition requires a 10.3 front yard variance and a 3-foot side yard variance.
Good evening, everyone. Court Chappelle here for the Venturas.
I hate to recuse myself. I'm gonna go there.
Sure. Thanks for being honest. Mr. Chappelle.
And with me is Dr. Ventura to my right.
Mark Ventura, 166 Thayer Drive, Portsmouth.
You can bring it up. Just to explain it, it's 166 Thayer Drive. For those of you who had the opportunity to review the packet, it's a pre-existing house that they bought 6 years ago. The house is fully compliant in an R40 zone, and it meets our setbacks of 30-foot front yard, 20-foot side yard, and all rear yard requirements. It's well under lot coverage, both before and after, comes in at about 10% lot coverage. But whoever built it sought to put it on a side of the lot, and then sought to put the existing 2-car garage angled towards the front. And it currently, if you look at the drawings, the current garage just kind of fits right into that corner, which was exactly 30 feet off of the front yard and exactly 20 feet off the side. And it's built with that small breezeway. So Dr. Ventura and his wife and their 2 children who live there, they at college a lot, but now all driving in cars. There's a circular driveway that is not wide enough to park and stop. It's parking in their driveway, obviously, but if you park there, now we don't have a circular driveway. So they traditionally like to keep their cars in their garage. Their basement was finished when they purchased the property, so they don't have storage downstairs, and it's truss roof without an attic. So they were seeking to look to a place where they could have additional storage, both for parking of another car for the kids that are in town, or all of those things associated with living here on our island, from boats and lawnmowers and things that go in your garage. And when you task the architect, based on where that garage currently exists, it can only be extended in one direction unless you take the breezeway and try to park a car between the house and the existing garage, and that's not wide enough. So the only thing they could do is extend it. And I realize we're asking for a 3-car garage, but the extension then, when you ask for a 3rd bay, we're only asking for it to be 12 feet wide. So we're not coming in saying we need a 3rd bay and it's 16 feet wide, it's 12 feet. And we have some pictures that
This is a diagram of the house with the small addition of the 1 car. You can see that it's just very tastefully done.
Is well done. Much better than Sue's work. Thank you for bringing it up.
So we hadn't done really this far, but you can see that the area with the reduced roof is the 3rd car garage that is 12 feet wide that we're looking to add to the end of the existing building, and we're drawing and being the only place that you can add it. It's still going to be 20 feet from the road, would be okay in an R10 and an R20, just not when you get into your R30 and R40 neighborhood. There's some mature landscaping there. There's some mature landscaping there that stays, and it's meant to be thin enough so it can keep some of those existing ornamental trees. So from the road, it should look exactly like it does now. Obviously, it would be that 10 or 12 foot closer. But it's generally 2 variances. The first is a 10.3 foot variance, because it will be 17.7 feet from the road if you agreed to it. So it's a 30-foot minimal front yard. It'll come in at 17.3, 17.7, which would be a 10.3 front yard variance. It will be 17 feet from the side yard, so it'd be a 3-foot side yard variance. And just to kind of put a couple of things on a record, you heard me testify, you bought the house as is, so this was not caused by you, is that right?
That is absolutely correct.
Your basement was finished prior to you getting there and it's utilized living space, so you lack storage that can traditionally be found in other homes your size utilizing your basement.
That is absolutely correct.
So your storage needs are met almost exclusively by your garage, which is currently a 2-stall garage, but not even a large 2-stall garage. Up above the 2-stall garage is not living space,
No,
and there's no proposed living space over the new part.
no,
In fact, that's a trussed roof up there.
correct. There's
Okay.
no finished garage. It's all open, wide open with trusses.
So your storage needs are not currently being met at your property, and by adding this, it either gives you a place for another car or the incidentals that are normally taking up your garage to block the 2 cars now.
Absolutely.
You and your wife live there both with your own automobiles and your names and your children, but for them being away at
Yes.
college, home base as well out of your place.
Yes, they are living at home. Yes, other than when they're at school.
And your neighborhood has a number of 3-car garages.
It does.
There's more 3-car garages than 2-car garages. Is
Yes.
that true? So this would be compatible with the neighborhood, whether or not it's too close to the road or not is the issue for the board.
Yes,
But the 3-car garages would not be something that wouldn't be the norm or at
Correct.
least compatible.
correct.
I believe that's all I have.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
am I in on this one?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry. Should have clarified that. Sorry. Thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Kelly.
And welcome to the new members, by the way.
And I thank you. Thank you for your time and your
Yeah, it's completely
consideration as
new, but-
well. Appreciate it very much.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, good.
To the north, the home to the north of the property. There's a band of arborvitae that divides, that's on the boundary.
That is correct.
Is that your arborvitae?
It is.
Would you, I would propose a condition that you maintain that arborvitae to provide a visual screen between you and the neighbor that you're now kind of getting close to.
I absolutely will do that. And I actually cut it lower than what the previous owners had at the request of my neighbors because it helps with the view from the neighborhood up, the neighbors up above. So yes, we absolutely do.
Okay.
Every year we trim those down and back and keep them nice and shaped.
That's the only comment I have.
That's it. Okay. Anyone else? Abutters or interested parties? No? Aaron online?
No, there was somebody who came in today that said they were in support. They were across the street at 341 King Charles. They were in support of it. They just couldn't be here.
Thank you. Okay, that said, we'll make a motion to vote. Okay. Lead us off, Mr. Farrell.
Mr. Chairman, I vote to approve the 10.3-foot front yard variance and the 3-foot side yard variance. As noted, there are multiple homes in this neighborhood that have 3-car garages. The configuration of this particular home reduces the amount of storage space normally available, therefore making the 3rd bay make even more sense. This hardship is due to those kinds of characteristics of the property and the existing home. The hardship is not the result of the applicant's prior process, and granting the variance doesn't alter the characteristics of the surrounding neighborhood, particularly if we include the condition that the row of arborvitae to the north of the property is maintained to provide a visual screen between this property and the adjacent property to the north.
Thank you.
Second.
We're not there yet.
Oh.
But thanks. Mr. Donovan,
I vote to approve for the reasons stated previously.
Ms. Horowitz,
I vote to approve for reasons previously stated.
your turn, Mr. Kelly.
All right, now I vote to approve for reasons previously stated.
Thank you. Chairman also votes to approve. You did a great job with design and, attaching it to the existing garage, so
Thank you very
you're
much.
approving, and good luck with that.
Thank you. I really appreciate all of you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Sir.
Appreciate
All right.
Still excited tonight, Mr. Kelly, huh?
Yeah, you know, we were full complement.
All right. Last but not least, last item on the agenda, Andrew Grace and Gregory Abel for property located at 90 Aquidneck Avenue, tax assessor's map 24 lot 174. Applicant seeks a possible front and side yard dimensional variance to construct additions to an existing dwelling.
You're just,
Check our. You want to give it a second year vote tonight, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, he's my immediate.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
But you go to 1 week here.
I just don't like the guy. I was.
I think we should be acquiring plans.
Got the space.
There you go. Yeah. Just, beautiful. Did you build in the home?
I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, substandard, but it goes down to R10.
Back again, Mr. Chabell?
I'm back. And some of it, because with some new members, I'm gonna walk this one through the ordinance. Because it has just some interesting tweaks on it that Aaron and I might not even agree on, but we both see them as issues. So I'll start with, I'm here on behalf of Andrew Grace and Abel Gregory. They are the owners of the property and they are seeking to have some additions to their existing home. Andrew happens to be a city planner and an architect. So I have a better show than I normally have. So I'm going to show you a couple of things, but it's important to know that all we need are potential variances on the front and side yard. There's no lot coverage variances. It's allowed as a matter of right. It's just these variances. And if you looked in my submission package, you have to look at the new ordinance, and a lot of this stuff changed all in the last year. We used to have setbacks in every zone, and we had some lots that were smaller than were allowed. So in an R20 zone, 20,000 square feet being the minimum, when you had a 16,000 square foot lot, you didn't need to meet the requirements or the setbacks of an R20, they would be reduced. And what the ordinance says is, let's take a look at the lot and what zone does it fit into? So in a case in Island Park where you had, and Common Fence Point, where you have only 5,000 square foot lots, that doesn't fit into an R10, which is our smallest lot. And because of that, you have applied those mathematical formulas to reduce by percentage. But when, this happened to be my first one, where it's an R20 lot, but the lot is 16,000 square feet, 16,000 being greater than 10,000 square feet. So the new state law says, go to the requirements of the 10,000 square foot lot. So when you take this R20 lot now, the front yard requirements as set forth in our R10 ordinance are a 20-foot front yard setback and a 15-foot side yard setback. But now, if you look at my handout, you have another portion of your ordinance that says no house needs to be further set back than the average of its adjacent properties. So now you look at the adjacent properties, and in this case on Atlantic Avenue, we set forth all of the distances, and I'll show them to you in a minute here, of the adjacent properties. And Aaron and I agree that although this house, after the changes are being made, are going to be 17 feet from the front yard, no variance is required. and no variance is required because it would be 20 feet. But when the guy to the right is 8.8, the guy across the street is 12.2, and this one's 10, when you average those together, it could actually be much closer to the front by, as a matter of right, than we are. That's not in dispute. The question is, now you've got a corner lot. And our ordinance, when you're a corner lot, says, hey, you know the side of your house and the side lot line that everybody else only has to be 10 feet away? Not you. You're a corner lot. You have 2 front yards. My interpretation, and I don't want to get caught up in this, I'm just telling you the differences. My interpretation is if you have 2 front yards, then each front yard should be able to avail itself of that portion of the ordinance that says your front yard setback need to be no greater than your averages. So for the Atlantic Avenue side, which is clearly the front of this house, we applied those averages and we found that at 17 feet, we needed no variance. On the Tolman Avenue side, our double front yard, if we applied the averages, we also don't need a variance. That would be stipulated by both Aaron and I. Aaron just doesn't believe that the side yard that's only fictitiously a front yard because it's a corner can avail itself of the same. So that is why it was prepared. If you look even at the advertisements, it says the possibility of a variance because you may decide it doesn't need a variance at all. I don't care what you decide about that, but I want to put on the evidence that if it requires a variance, we still meet the requirements, we believe, of a dimensional side yard variance, a fairly minimal dimensional side yard variance. So with that said, I introduce Andrew.
Introduce myself, Andrew Grace, and my husband is Gregory Abel. He's not able to be here tonight. Address is 90 Aquidneck Avenue in Portsmouth, Rhode Island. We've lived in the neighborhood, lived in this house for 8 years. We lived in the neighborhood for 16 years in another house right down the street. All right, so if we can advance to the next slide. What I took the liberty of doing was just our architect, we're also joined by as well, Tyler Narod from DeMoro Architects. There were some drone views that were done as part of our design process, and I thought this would be helpful for kind of understanding the context of the request that's before you. So this is just showing our house is in the center with the concrete patio that is pre-existing.
And I'm just going to add that street that you see is Tolman Avenue.
Yeah, the next one.
And the street in front is Atlantic. And that's why this house fronts. I'm sorry.
It's
Aquidneck, I'm sorry.
Aquidneck.
Yeah.
If you go to the next one, they're linked.
What I want to point out, it's interesting that you're on a corner lot, but only for half of your lot, which is a whole nother interesting beast. But go ahead.
So as Attorney Chappelle Court was pointing out, you can see they're demarcated. Our property has Atlantic going into it, Tolman along the side of it, or our second front, and then we front onto Aquidneck Ave. If you go to the next slide, there is an existing survey, and there's demarcations in there of what, as court had discussed, the surrounding properties and their current conditions in terms of how far those homes are set back from the property line. We did this because we understood the zoning code and we just wanted to situate our property in that context. And if you go to the next one, that's the house as it is. We did work when we bought it 8 years ago. And it is our intention to essentially save the foundation and the septic system. We thought when we hired this architect that we were just going to add a second floor, but because of our location and the conditions, ceiling heights and structural stuff, it's been determined that it just makes more sense to remove the structure. We're going to work from that foundation. We're going to remove a portion of it. So we are staying within where structure currently is. You'll see this more clearly. Next image, please. And that is what we're proposing to do. So you can see that it was designed to try and save stuff that was there. Initially, the 2 windows it situates almost, identically to what is presently there. Next one, please. So we've shifted 90 degrees here. If you go to the next slide, I'm sorry, if you can go back there. I wish I had a pointer. You can see the one-car garage. So we're proposing tearing down where the sunroom is and extending the one-car garage there. We are still, as Court had described, within the constraints of where our neighbors are. The adjacent property, 82 Aquidneck, has I think 9.9 feet. And the surrounding properties are in that range as well. Now the next slide is a head-on, again, drone view, just showing that. Next slide. I'm not a surveyor, but I just thought it might be helpful to see, where the property lines are. And so this is just me trying to illustrate, some of these conditions, if you will. As you can see, I put on there the 16 feet 5 inches and the 21 feet 4 inches. Those are two, that's the existing setbacks on the existing house. Next image, please. Adjacent to that is what we're proposing there. And the new setbacks to either the extent of roofs or the extent of things are 13 feet on the 13 feet 3 inches on the Tallman side and 17 feet 5 inches on the Aquidneck side. Next, and this is where, so you can see our neighbor directly across the street from us. On the Tallman side, the distance from their property line, there is some area in the public right of way. It appears as though it's our lawn, but that's owned by the town. It's approximately 9.9 feet there. And you can see the stone wall there is our property. So that's where we're located. That's Beth's house. Next, we love our neighbors. That's Beth's house and there's our house. So you can kind of see where that 9'9" is. Next one, please. Advance. On the Tallman side is our adjacent neighbors on that side, and that is an original cottage. Beth's was an original cottage as well. 3.3 feet. They are off on that side, and you can see it from both the Tallman side and standing at Atlantic Ave. Next, please. Thank you, Aaron. And then the Rudicuses, who own that house for generations. We're both adjacent to that public right-of-way that goes down to the water. And so it's up for interpretation whether or not they're a corner lot or not, but they are 4.8 feet from the property.
Tolman extends on paper to the water. It just doesn't extend in reality to the water. It turns at Atlantic.
Next, and we're almost done, I promise. This is just some more context. It's the house adjacent. That's actually Josh's and the what's their name? Anyhow, they've lived in the neighborhood for generations. They own that house, and they tore down the house to build that house. This is a house that's catty corner from us. The next one, Aaron, they did this at 2.9 feet. They tore down a house and then built that there with the 2-car garage, which we're not proposing to do. But you can see it in relation to where our house is as well. So next. And then another neighbor who's been at the house generations. They are 2.9 feet, and actually I didn't put the dimension, but they're like around 4 feet or so that their setback is. Next, this is a neighbor directly across from us, David Meneze, whose family had owned the house right next to us before that turned down. They're 12.2 feet that setback. Next. And then directly adjacent to us, there was a house that was torn down. That was the Meneze, the original Meneze house. This is Billy and Donna, our direct abutters on that side. And their house is 9.8 feet from where the street edge is, the property line to that. And then just some adjacent properties further up the street. This has many houses have been torn down and they've expanded. Yeah, that's all this does is represent that. I think we can go. Well, that's just a view down of the public way of Almond. And then these are just a few more renderings of the house.
My comments, if you just go back to the view on Tolman. So I think you've learned that all the houses there are substantially closer to both front or sides. And that our front, we need no relief, but at 17.7, we are still the furthest from the street of any of the houses within 5 or 6 in any direction. And as to the side, if this was a traditional side yard, we would need no relief. Because it's a double front yard, we would need no relief if you read that ordinance to say when you don't have to be any closer than the average in the front. But again, if Aaron doesn't say that applies, then we are still asking for a variance where we are 16 feet away now and going 13.3, which is really an outdoor shower that sits and does it, which I could almost make as a portable unit, but we didn't want to be disingenuous. This is the Tolman Avenue sign, which has a stone wall. Note that nothing that we're doing is going to change this view at all. Everything is still within inside the stone wall, and Tolman is wide. So you have the 5 or 6 feet from the macadam, then the stone wall, then 13.3 feet. So you're still going to have more than 20 feet from where the macadam is, but it's 13.3 from the property line. And based on their needs to try to make this their permanent home, I think he said he's been here a long time, but it is their summer home. And they're trying to make it their year-round home. And in making it a year-round home, we're trying to get the space available. You can see the size of the houses across the street. Some of them, they're not overbuilding the neighborhood. They may be enhancing the neighborhood, but they're not overbuilding it. There are some other houses that have taken the same approach to try to stay almost within the same footprint. Most of the increases in the footprint that you see are porticos and decks and amenities more than the increase of the structural living aspect of it. So we think we meet the ordinance.
Mr. Chairman. Can we scroll up to the proposed design? Actually, I guess it's down, sorry. Right there, okay. So are you abandoning your curb cut on Tolman?
We will.
You will, okay.
When we purchased the house, the garage used to be entered off of, or garage, sorry, they used to park in front of what was a sun porch. And we configured it, as much as we love our neighbors. We're the house that has all the flowers and everyone likes to walk through it. So we're gonna restore the stone wall there.
Yeah.
And then break through. So we'll still have a U driveway,
Yeah.
but it'll just return back to the way it was when we bought it.
But it'll all be on Aquidneck.
Yeah, it'll all be on equipment.
I just wondering, thank you.
Yes, sir. I don't recall seeing these in the package that we received, but if we can go back to the, I'm not sure what it's called, the site plan.
Second email, yeah.
Okay. The, super. The distance from your home on the south, from the home to the property line. Looking at this, it looks like it's this, omitting the outdoor shower for a moment. It's the same. You're extending something sort of east-west, but you're not getting any closer.
Correct. We did that intentionally.
Right.
We weren't seeking a 2-car garage. We just felt one car was more in keeping with the scale of.
And that's why I said, it's really just the outdoor shower and the deck.
Yeah.
And it's almost where, it's almost where you're no longer a corner anymore. I don't know, if it was behind the corner, I don't know if it would ever bifurcate the increased double front yard on a corner that only runs half of a piece of property, but again, it is unique, and that's why I said we were gonna go out of our way to talk about it, because it's almost a lesson in all of these ordinances.
And on the front of the home, fronting onto Aquidneck, the new garage extends a little bit closer. But as has been discussed, you guys aren't looking for a front yard variance on the front yard. And so the only additional encroachment to the south is that outdoor shower and the little piece of deck, I guess a step or something.
Yes, and we don't need a lot coverage. If you look at it and you see it at 21 or something, it's because, and you know that 20 is the percentage, remember, we do still apply the percentage of 16,000 to 20 and get an increase in the lot coverage based on the dimensional deficiency. So again, when we calculated that, there was no variance needed. But if you look at it and you go, why is this 21? Don't we always have a variance at over 20? We don't because of that. And again, these are all pretty new. June 23, June 24 laws. I also remind you that this is still also an expansion of a non-conforming lot, which kicks in Article 6, Section D, and that is,
Yes.
oh, we got rid of that. Good.
Okay, that,
Just a little expansion.
We don't have the two, we still get adequate fire protection, but that was that extra 2 questions we always ask.
yes, sir, that's all I have.
Anybody else?
Eric, good night.
Any other members of the board?
Actually, can I just add one thing? That whole area you're gonna be fitting more what that's happening in the past couple of years. The only question I have is, are you planning on putting any bushes or trees on that corner? But a lot of times, like I'm on the other end of Water Street, and there's a huge bush around one corner that makes it really difficult to see things. And I'm sure you thought about it already because you live there, so you don't want to have it.
We wouldn't do anything that would prevent. We already had somebody drive through the stone wall once. It was a new driver up the street who got a little nervous when she was turning, and she went through our stone wall once. So it's good that it's there. If it wasn't there, it would have happened.
Yeah, that's a
But yeah, no, we don't. And I'm the gardener, so
It looks great.
I
I drive it by a lot.
Okay. Anybody else? Motion to vote, Mr. Pell?
Well, I think we have to decide, are we voting for it
Yeah.
as a
We need
variance,
clarity.
or are we accepting what?
I don't care if you do that afterwards. Aaron may want future guidance that you guys can discuss. I just thought by putting it out there,
Which
you could,
avenue are we gonna
you
vote
could
on?
do that. If you vote on, I guess if you voted on the variance first, you could address that in less of a vacuum. Assuming that you voted positively for the variance.
Can I ask another quick question, a little bit?
Sure.
We'll meet the setbacks if we treated Coleman as a front yard and you.
Yeah, and if,
The math on that, you meet that,
yes.
and if we treated it as a side yard.
But I'll let Aaron speak to it. He has a logical argument that the ordinance uses specific words about it being that, and I included it in the package. To me, a front yard and a front yard setback or a front line setback are the same. He looks at a side lot line, and this doesn't change the fact that it's a side. It only increases it to a front yard setback standard. So the ordinance that says your front yard average wouldn't apply. I think that might not be true, but in this case, think of the absurdity of this particular application. Your front yard in this case, based on averages, could be 11 feet away. And your side yard, even though the average on Tolman is 4.5 feet, 2.9, 5.3, 3.3 is 4.5 feet. We would have to have a side yard of 20 feet when every neighbor has less than 5. But we could have a front yard of 11 because we applied it to that one. It doesn't make much sense to me, but I understand the way it's written. It could be changed with a couple of words.
It's clear as mud. So.
Yeah.
If we treated it as a front yard, 2 front yards, and then you made it the requirement to be a front yard setback, there's no
You wouldn't
problem.
need any relief. And the way I would apply it, and again, it gets a little confusing.
Average front yard setbacks was,
Right.
if you.
But I would take houses on Aquidneck, the adjacent houses on Aquidneck, and see what their average is to determine the Aquidneck front yard. And I would take the average of Tolman to do that. I don't know if you want to start using a corner. It gets confusing because now if the 2 adjacent lots, do you take the Tolman and the Aquidneck and average them to get the Aquidneck? Or do you use Aquidneck for Aquidneck and Tolman for Tolman? That was my interpretation, as right or wrong as it may be. And I recognize the way it's worded that in a clear theoretical pure reading, he's right. In a more practical application, I think I'm right, but that's okay.
You just want to
But
build
he
the
just wants
house.
he just wants a variance and not to be caught up in this. And I think maybe Kevin is the one that decides.
It's really clear when it's
Well,
almost as muddy as the sign one.
But I think
Yeah.
Kevin's gonna tell you
I
then
have
when
opinions on that.
when courts are involved, they always try to give the reading that has the narrowest view of what can be used just for this project and not against the world in the future. That's not uncommon. And then policy can be made without us here, but that policy, at least I've explained to you. I don't think Aaron has a problem with the policy either way. He just doesn't see that it reads that way. And the new ordinance might be much clearer on it. But you could say in future applications, we're going to save these guys the money. And if this comes before you again, Aaron, this is the way we're going to interpret it. And that might be guidance that he wants, but that can be done without us here or with us here.
Could I ask Aaron, what do you want us to do?
Did you read my staff report?
Yes.
Okay, so I outlined everything in there. It is really the language part that I'm interpreting. It's when you have that dwelling need not more than the average setbacks of dwelling on lots attached to either side. Then it goes on to say, if a vacant lot exists on one side, it shall be considered as a dwelling setback at the depth of the required front yard. So that gives the intention that it's at the depth of the required front yard. It doesn't mean the side yard as well. So front yard, there's in our ordinance, there is a defined front side. A front yard is that which has the address. That's the front yard. Side yard is on either side, and there's a rear yard. On a corner lot, the side yard takes the front setback.
But it is not a front yard.
It is not a front
It's
yard.
not a front yard.
Yeah, yeah, so I would just ask, boil this down for me. Do we have a variance or no?
That's
And-
that's really that's the question I'm gonna ask is
I'm asking you.
I would interpret it as yes, they would need a variance on the side yard.
Okay, and how much of a variance?
6.7 feet from the 20-foot setback.
6.7 feet?
Yes.
And that would be called a side yard variance.
Yes.
17. There's nothing on the front.
Correct.
It'd be called a side yard variance based on the increased front setback of the corner lot.
Based on a corner lot, yes.
I'm not that smart.
So it's essentially, we're just setting a baseline and we're gonna vote based on the averages that we see on the street. We're gonna use logic here.
So that's the front, so what this is the whole crux of it, is the front yard. We can apply that regulation because that's in
Just
the
the front.
regulation, the front yard. Side yard is not in that.
We're just not going to apply it twice.
Right.
The setback of
So-
the front yard, or we have to give them a variance.
If I can say it, Eric,
Yeah, so say moving forward,
The side yard.
you're suggesting moving forward that where your front door and your address is the front yard, and we don't have that overlying two front yard issue anymore.
no, we still have.
We still
Can I,
have.
can I say it the way I think that that everybody will agree? The front yard setback, the true front yard setback, we are going to apply that portion of the ordinance that allows you to look at the average adjacent setbacks and do it. When we have a corner lot that has two setbacks, we are not going to apply that average. We are going to apply typical dimensional variance standards, and you can just adjust accordingly
To the neighbor.
individually if it's practical or not.
That's.
Yeah.
That's what I said, that's what I agree with.
Every homeowner have to come for a variance.
Yeah, it
Right, so we didn't have.
every unique
Yep, exactly.
homeowner like
Unique,
you,
yeah.
but it is a relative, it's more unique than you think.
Side yards,
Yeah.
but then you could compare. I don't want to get into the weeds of this, but you could compare this situation with your neighbor, with any other house on the side, you could compare comparables, right? So we're just talking about the same thing in a different.
I would like to think if there were 25 side yards and everybody in the neighborhood was 3 feet, you're gonna generally grant me a variance based on everybody having a 3-foot variance. It's just that the average is not a matter of right, and I gotta pay to be here. That's
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
unfortunate
It's
part,
the same.
but it is. But again, we get to build a house if you vote accordingly, and thank you if you do.
Okay. Got it. Anybody else? Yeah.
If I may, sorry, we
Sorry.
have, I think, 3 letters of support.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
there are letters of support. I included one, some of the other ones did come in late.
Thank you. Sorry, it's been a long day.
We know all the neighbors.
We consulted all the neighbors.
But there are 3 letters, yeah, there are 3 letters of support that were submitted of the abutting neighbors.
Still live in that street years ago.
Hmm.
2 over,
Yeah, exactly.
right, so. All in favor. I did the abutters, but I think I jumped the gun on that. You asked the question, but I can ask for abutters again. Nobody's online.
No.
Make a motion to vote. So moved. Second. Right. Mr. Friel starts off.
Mr. Chairman, I vote to approve a 6.7 foot side yard variance on this property. In granting this variance, it does not alter the character of the neighborhood. As on some of these other properties, these are seasonal homes being upgraded to full-time, 21st century conditions. The hardships involved, the size of the lot, the position of the home is not the result of anything that the applicant has done. The applicant is mostly building up and adding a single car garage, which is a common accessory use up and down that street. And so I vote to approve.
Thank you. Mr. Garvin.
I vote to approve for reasons as stated by Mr. Puriel.
Forwards.
Vote to approve for reasons previously stated.
I vote to approve for the reasons previously stated.
The chairman also votes to approve. I think the architect Tyler did a great job fitting in with the confines of the lot. Thank you for explaining the intricacies, Mr. Chappelle.
Thank you. Sorry to keep you all so late.
Thank you very
I'm
much.
blaming the first, I'm blaming the first guy.
Well, so good luck with everything.
I move to adjourn.
Wait, 1 second.
Second.
Wait,
Oh, sorry.
1 second. You guys are good. You guys, you're all set. Talking to them. When making a motion, so making a motion and then someone seconds it.
Second.
And then you guys vote. As a matter of procedure. So if you're making a motion, somebody would second it, and then you vote on it. That, right? That makes sense?
Yeah.
That's what we've been doing, hasn't
You went from.
Oh,
You did the
to
first
adjourn,
time.
you're saying?
No,
We
for
jumped
any
it.
motion. Except for adjournment, it doesn't really matter, but for any motion, you have a motion, a second, and then you have a vote. You did it right the first time, second and after times,
Then what happens?
you motioned and then called the vote.
Oh, I went
So you
back.
do the motion,
For a second.
a second, and then a vote, just to make it clear. Procedurally.
Should we do?
Look at a little bit of stage.
Quarter.
Yeah, but if you have to motion, second, and then vote. Right.
Perfect. May I now move to adjourn?
Also,
Second.
what are your thoughts on a December meeting? We have one application. I said, depending on what the board thought, we could either proceed or.
Oh, we're gonna do Secret Santa.
We're recording, so this needs to be on record, so we still need to have the next on, please, but
No. So would you like to proceed or would you like to move it to January?
Is there anything on the,
I'm fine to do it.
is there anything on the agenda that?
I got one application.
And when would be the deadline for any other
It's
applications?
gone.
Today,
Past that
tomorrow,
already?
tomorrow.
Is it a time sensitive one? Like, is it kind of, what is it for?
It's an application on Prudence Island.
Oh, next January.
January.
Okay, so our next schedule,
Okay, I move we postpone the next meeting to January.
Second,
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Mr. Kelly, you want to second anything?
No, no. I'm
Now
out
you
of
can do
this
the
one.
thing and adjourn.
So that'll be January 16th.
Yes.
And now I move to adjourn.
Good.
Second. Motion to adjourn.
Second, third.